Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well out there, and if you guys could subscribe, that'd be great, and appreciate you stopping by. So, little update on the two top stars that we've been discussing this offseason at, in Pipe Dream World. For one, Heat maybe, KD more likely, less likely. It feels like it's the momentum's kind of getting killed there. DeMar DeRozan's going on a Dwayne Wade's podcast that, feels like it's setting up for recruitment to go the other way. But Giannis, okay, we'll start here with the Giannis thing. So Giannis is in Brazil. And according to Eurohoops, this is a piece that got translated from their outlet, Coast to Coast, Brazil. He discussed whether or not he was going to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. And the quote that they have there is that he wants to, let me get the exact thing here. His point was that he was going to stay with Milwaukee because he was talking about the NBA Finals and that he can't wait to get back there with the Bucks. So he says, you have two great teams that got there. Indiana with my friend Pascal Siakam reaping the rewards. OKC has the MVP. I'm rooting for good basketball. The finals are different. I hope to be back soon with the Bucks. Now, the only place I can see these quotes are on Twitter, I guess. But Giannis apparently confirming now that there was reports today from Windhorse that people aren't even trying to go trade for Giannis. There's no even discussions with Giannis. There's no market for Giannis. It feels very much like everybody's going towards the area of, hey, he's not getting moved. Now, I don't know what's going to happen because he's, this whole meeting that was supposed to happen, he seems like he's been gallivanting around the world. Now, maybe he is because he's like, there's nothing I got to meet for. Also, it's the NBA Finals right now. There's nothing that could happen anyway. So maybe he's going to wait until the very end of this series and then be back and then make his decision. But it does feel like the winds are howling around. Giannis Antetokounmpo is staying with the Milwaukee Bucks as of right now. And if you are to say this quote now, though, the one thing, there is like a deleted post. Not to what do the kids say? Take some copium. But it said there was a post deleted by them because I don't see on here I don't see the direct quote on here exactly where it says about the the stars, the two NBA franchises. But listen, we'll see what ends up happening. But obviously Rio getting the scoop there. That it seems like it confirms. And there's also photos like of him on Instagram with Bucks jerseys in front of the Jesus statue in Brazil. So do with that what you will. As far as the Kevin Durant stuff is concerned, still got him on notifications. He's still going at it with everybody on Twitter about legacy and all that type of stuff. Zach Lowe, he mentioned the Heat today on his podcast about would they get involved, that he thinks that the Heat are going to try. He thinks very much the Heat are going to try. He seemed almost like insistent that the Heat are going to try and be in the game for Kevin Durant, and that he sees Miami talking themselves into a trio of KD, Bam, and Hero, which is a damn good trio. I mean, whatever you want to say about it, it's a damn good trio. He said that there is an element that looks like the Heat trading Wiggins, expiring deals so you could get them out of jail. So I'd assume that'd be Rozier or Duncan. Then Jovic or Jaquez and a pick, which is a lot less than has been out there. If they had the choice, Jaquez or Jovic, I feel like Phoenix is going to want Jovic. If I had my choice, I'd obviously rather trade Jaquez than Jovic just because of age, ceiling. And look, I like a lot of the stuff Jaquez is saying this offseason. I hope that a lot of it works out. And then If he does stick with the Heat, I hope he has a great Heat career. I'm just saying, if you made me choose today as a GM, if I had to rank right now the most, prestigious young players on the Heat right now, if you had to rank the 3 last picks and where you valued them, you'd probably go Ware, Jovic, Jaquez. And I don't think there's anybody who's really going. Maybe there's, my Heat Nation brethren in Serbia who would go Jovic, Ware, Jaquez, but I don't think there's anybody right now who's got Jaquez on top. And I don't know if there's many people who even have Ware, Jaquez, Jovic. I don't think there's a lot of people that have that right now. So if you were able to do that, Jaquez to me feels like the play that would happen. I don't know if that's enough. It feels like there are way better deals that would be out there. That would have to be a heavily Durant influence, because Zach Lowe also mentions he feels like the Heat really don't want to give up Kel'el Ware, which kind of takes it back to our conversation from last week, which talks about, like, if the Heat really wanted to get that done, they would do the contract matchups and Ware, and there's no picks. Like, that's the move. But you talk about a Bam, KD, Ware, Tyler Hero, and then I guess Davion Mitchell re-signing. I think it's a pretty good squad. I could see in the right folds, like if things break their way, they could do some interesting things. Certainly would love to see what Tyler Hero does with somebody like KD on the floor with him. Would love to see what that does for Bam Adebayo. It just feels like it would put the order of operations for this team in a much, much, much better place. And the other thing with me being willing to give up Jovic, and I've acknowledged this even as huge of a Jovic fan as I am, which I am, it feels like best case scenario for him next year is he's going to be the sixth man. Like, even if the Heat just do a run it back, there's not many scenarios where I see Jovic is going to get the start. Now, maybe we get to a point where the Heat like to close with him and it goes Jovic, Bam, and Ware, and do we get a little? We got snippets of that last year, and I enjoyed tall time. Well, we got to see it, but it doesn't feel like something that Spo's going to go to as a default. I just don't think that that's a place where we're ever going to end up. But if that deal that Lowe is putting out there is an actual possibility, it feels to me, one, Durant's got to really want to go to Miami. The noise right now is San Antonio isn't the favorite, but it feels like they're the loudest team right now out of anybody that he's going to go to. They feel like the most obvious fit, best roster that he'd probably be left with. And just feels like they got the easiest path to make it happen. But the deterrent there is, do they want to go in that direction with him because of he being so much older than all their key players? Not really a position Kevin Durant's been in. Like, he's been on veteran-laden teams pretty much since when he was young OKC, like goes to the Warriors, Brooklyn, builds his own team basically. The other thing that Lowe mentioned, that there's possibility that Nick Claxton, who is a pesky center, talented, that he could be the center that ends up in Phoenix that satisfies everything. Nick Claxton, good player, annoys the holy hell out of Bam every time they play. One of those matchups like Jakob Poeltl that just sneakily is not one that I think he loves facing Nick Claxton just because he's a nuisance to him. But if that is able to take the Ware option off, I mean, that would be ideal for the Heat. That would be ideal for the Heat. But ultimately, if they're able to do that, and the biggest piece they got to give up, is Jovic. Like, I don't love it, but it feels like that's a move that the Heat have to make just because of where Jovic feels in flux. They need some kind of a pivot point for the organization, even if it's just jolting the fan base a little bit. Like, we always put this down to contending and championships, and yes, that to me doesn't sound like a mortgage the future move, but it also feels like KD on the Heat feels like it really, really reinvigorates the fan base. some of these other teams, I think if you look at the Rockets, I don't think they need reinvigoration. They were a good team this year. Spurs have Wemby. They don't need reinvigoration. Knicks, they're going to be looking for some changes, obviously, but like that is championship or bust for that team right there, which are, expectations. I don't, KD battling with everybody, still that stuff that happened 4 years ago on Twitter. How's that going to go for him? And he's already kind of besmirched the Knicks before, so curious about that. And then Minnesota, obviously, the reverence that Ant has for him would be a really, really cool story. But, I don't necessarily know that they got the ponies to trade for him either. So that's an interesting one for sure. But to me, I do feel like, I truly think that like if you put about like just an appreciation of having his basketball excellence here and not necessarily just about ring chasing and all that, I do think that there's going to be an appreciation from the Heat fans just to have him on the team. And I also think the ramifications will be, hey, this is going to be very good for your other top two guys and is going to have good trickle down in helping them from a basketball standpoint. But we'll see. It's all kind of just been the same, hubbub of like, here's what we think. We don't know. Shams and Windhorst pointed out that action, once the season's over and we get to draft, like action is going to occur. We're going to get a lot of stuff. It seems like hot and heavy early on, which, feels like stuff and wheels are already in motion for this. So had that, do with that what you will as far as where the Heat are concerned in all these moves. But, honestly, appreciate the final. I know, Giannis says that he wants the finals to just be good basketball. I just want the finals to be over. I'm ready for the offseason. Nice story. Congratulations to Halliburton. Tip of the cap. But one of you teams just win it in 5 so I can get to I don't care who it is, but just one of you gentlemen sweep it so we can get to the action this offseason.